Hello, hello, hello. I have nothing else to do. So I thought I'd make a video and talk about something I wanted to talk about yesterday, but I watched that Werner Herzog documentary film and I didn't want to lose my train of thoughts and because I wanted to talk about that as well. So, but I also wanted to talk about shyness. So I'll use that theme, the subject now, because I talk to people all the time on the internet, and it means a lot to me to talk to people, and it means a whole lot to me when people are willing to reveal something. It also means a lot to me when people are revealing something that they didn't intend to reveal, obviously. And so, but I observe all of them, the unintentional revealings and the intentional revealings, but particularly the intentional ones because that's when people are kind of reaching out in a roundabout way about their lives and about their personal difficulties and helplessness moments in communication with others. So and I use my own life as an example of how we can fix all of these things. I am work in progress. I am not above anyone else. I am digging my way through this, okay, with a very honest approach. And you can't do this without being honest to yourself. Okay? You have to be radically honest to yourself. That in itself is already it's a big obstacle to dig through, to get to that, to the other side of the tunnel where you can actually take that approach, because most people are afraid, they're terrified, and they hide behind dishonesty. And they don't even realize they are being dishonest to themselves. That's the worst dishonesty there is because, people who are dishonest to themselves, naturally, they will be dishonest in all kinds of situations. And they will be dishonest to other people, including their children. And they don't even realize that they are, okay? They play head games. They don't even realize that they're playing head games with their own children and other people and their partners and so on. So the absolute first step to healing oneself is to want to become radically honest. At least want to become. It may be difficult, all right, but the very first step is I really want to be radically honest to myself. And I do, I really do. I don't want to play any kind of games. I don't want to deceive myself or trick myself or blind myself. I don't want to be in denial, as my mother has been her whole life. I find that tragical. Okay, that's very tragical. She missed out on freedom. She missed out on meeting people, meeting the right partner. Out of fear, out of terror. And my dad and his mistress, Barbara, lifetime mistress, she was like a second mother for us and real dear friend. but both of them had issues. I love her dearly. She passed away. It's very tragic, very, very, very infinitely sad, all of this. Barbara is a good soul, okay? But work in progress, okay? Always work in progress. A light worker soul, like my dad, okay? They were really soulmates, They should have been together. They should have had kids together. Not with my mother, okay? My mother and my dad were not meant to be together. They kind of forced themselves to be together out of pity. Then I started repeating these same patterns in my own life. I end up being with someone I think I'm supposed to be with. Right? My parents told me, don't go with a rich man. Go with a nice man. I have to laugh about this so hard. It's like, don't go with a rich, like, bro. Seriously, what's so wrong with a rich man? Is there something wrong about it? But it stands in such enormous contradiction to my parents' behavior. But it was my mother who said that. It wasn't my dad. I don't think my dad would say something like that. He liked having money and all of that. My dad is the classic histrionic personality. Classic. My mother is a covert narcissist. The classic, like school book covert narcissist. And out of that comes enormous lies and incredibly impotent beliefs and advice. So don't listen to people like this ever. Like you gotta question these people. But it's difficult when you're a child or teenager. We put these people on a pedestal. And they drill kind of shit information into us. And then later on we go like, oh, here is the person that I'm supposed to be with. No, for the rest of my life. I can't take the rich guy. No, I have to take that guy. Because it makes it harder. You just have to struggle more, right? It's more struggle and strife. Like that's somehow good or something. No. It is not good. Not good. It is better to take the rich person. Yeah. But, okay, here's the big but involved in this. Okay, the rich person also has to be nice. I hope that makes a lot of sense. So, obviously, not all rich people are so super nice. I met some really bad ones. No, I didn't drink anything that intoxicates my brain. This is my natural state. I suffered so much in my life psychologically that like once I'm in a relaxed state of mind, I can look back on it and it appears comedic. So later on you can have the last laugh about these kind of things, if you survive them in the first place. So, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I don't know if that's always the case. some people end up quadriplegic. So that didn't make them stronger, obviously. Physically, maybe mentally, I don't know, but in a lot of cases, not mentally either. So it's devastating. So those are all kind of like weird kind of sayings that people have. We need to question all of these sayings. Question it all and try for yourself, put them to the test. Go through life and then you see, going through life. Go out there and get triggered, is what Dr. Arzurjanov always said to us. Don't be staying in that enclave of primal therapy and being surrounded with other primal therapy patients and trainees and some kind of, we were multicultural, like a melting pot group of 100 people or something, but we all had one thing in common, and that was extreme radical honesty in healing ourselves, real deep desire to dig into it all the way through and expose ourselves and be vulnerable and go through it and feel that stuff that wants to be felt. Feel that pain, that inner child, the suffering, the trauma from the past that has been oppressed by your consciousness, but it's pushing up, it bores up, boring up. That's what, when we say we're bored, it's really, the pain bores up, we'd rather put a lid on it. We turn on the vacuum cleaner so we don't hear the water dripping, as in Sesame Street. So people watch horror movies to drown out the horror of their past. So that's not the right approach to things, The horror, the pain from the past wants to be acknowledged. It wants to be seen, not drowned out. It gets more vicious if you drown it out. So the only approach we really have is you sit down on your chair or your couch alone. You don't have a radio on or a faucet dripping or a foghorn in the distance with a shrill sound that shrills its way through the whole entire town. Better not have that. Better to move into the desert. And then sit under a tree and listen to the wind and the tree and the birds, like the Buddha did, and go into your own mind, into introspection, the inwardness meditation process. And say to yourself, I want to heal this, I want to be radically honest to myself about this. I don't want to lie to myself anymore. Okay. I'm jealous. It is what it is. My ego doesn't like me saying that. My ego wants to cover that up and pretend that I'm above everything like my mother did. She'd actually say she's never jealous. Right. Wrong. No. She has always been, always seemed to be the most jealous person I have ever seen, I have ever met. But that's the thing, when people cover that up, it doesn't go anywhere, it gets worse, and it comes out with a vengeance. Because it wants to be dealt with. Okay. It wants to be felt all the way through. That's what I call the ego dissolution funnel. The ego gets completely dissolved. Oh, the ego doesn't like that at all. The ego gets tumbled like in a vacuum cleaner, like a spider in a vacuum cleaner. So you get tumbled through that ego dissolution funnel. Okay, and in this ego dissolution funnel, you say, I'm jealous. Oh man, that feels bad, right? To admit that to myself. But, oh man, I'm jealous. Wow, I didn't realize I was that jealous. But, that's ego dissolution funnel. Or if you say, ah, man, I didn't realize I hated myself like that. So, but there's something underneath that self-hate as well. But it's a whole lot better to get to that state than to be in a state of pretending and running away with bath salts in your brain. Whether you actually put toxic stuff like bath salts into your brain, which makes your neurosis a million times worse and your judgment on yourself a million times worse. And makes it impossible to have insights and to be even getting anywhere near the ego dissolution funnel. That's why people do it, because that's running away fast. But it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes it worse. It just dwindles worse into the abyss of suffering. Okay. You're creating your own hell with drugs and alcohol. That's a fact. Okay. You got to become very realistic about this. This is a fact. There's a bus coming towards you. Are you going to step out of the way or stay in the path of that bus? You keep taking drugs and alcohol and that bus, that abyss is going to hit you. And unimaginable suffering that nobody deserves. Not even a psychopath deserves that. Psychopath, from my sky perspective, is only someone who is the most vulnerable and the most afraid, and acting out in a frenzy, like someone who is trampling over other people trying to get out of the door of a burning building. That's what a psychopath is. And I'm really glad and grateful for everyone who talks about this on the internet. Dr. Sam Backman, Dr. Todd Grande, all of these people, Dr. Arthur Janoff, all of these amazing people that are out there, that have been out there throughout history, the people that are talking about this right now. This is vital to talk about these things. Also Werner Herzog talking about this. Also, it doesn't matter if he has his own perspective on things that may come from religion and neurosis in some way. But he does approach this with an honest viewpoint in terms of gives people a chance to talk, even though he made Elon Musk look not that super. I mean, like for the average person watching this, then they will see something taken out of context. Like Joe Rogan took that to an extreme, taking things out of context, with Elon Musk trying to make him look bad. But Werner Herzog wasn't trailing that far behind. And why are you making what's your problem with Elon Musk? Be careful when you come from the religious point of view. Be careful who you listen to. Watch your own ego with that kind of stuff. What is your ego? How's your ego getting away with this? How is your ego somehow gaining momentum, by taking things out of context to make someone else look bad in the public? This could be benign, And I see all of these things. I see it all. Okay. Nothing escapes my eagle eyes. Okay. Someone will say, well, you're just watching through the lens of paranoia or something. No. I have paranoia, but I do know when it's paranoia and when it's based on reality. I see who is coming from which perspective very, very quickly. That doesn't directly affect my life, but it is. I see that it has a negative ripple effect towards the whole world that we live in, and I see that as tragic. And I detect it and I talk about it. I think that's important. Very, very important. This introspection process is absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. Particularly for people who think they're sitting on assets and achievements and fame. And the brain and the ego says, oh, that's all because of me, the ego. And then the ego doesn't want to let go. Then the ego is really locking that in. So, but it is important for all of you, whoever you are, to introspect. This is vitally important. You could be a guru who is completely double standard and talks about ego dissolution and does the exact opposite. I see all of that. That is very tricky, okay, when that happens. You got to introspect. You have to. You have no other choice, because otherwise your life will be full of suffering, misery. You lose friends, you hurt people, you disappoint. If you don't introspect, you are part of making the world worse. Okay. You want to be part of making the world better, not for some ego again, but for compassion. Okay. You want to have compassion. You want to make the world better. You want to alleviate suffering, end suffering. Okay. Well, that's my personal wish. Okay, and that's why I talk about this, and I see the causalities. I see how everything is tied together. I see how the ego has his ego, in my view, is male. The ego has his filaments in all of that, So the ego is really the root cause of all of this twisted behavior. But then don't demonize the ego. The ego is a psychological defense mechanism. It means well to you, but it doesn't understand the implications of running away from pain. Okay. You work on your pain. You listen to it. You hear yourself out. You cry with that inner child. You cry with yourself. You feel compassion for yourself. You can feel pity for yourself. The word pity has a negative reputation. You have compassion for yourself. I have compassion for myself. I feel sorry for myself. It's okay. You can feel sorry for yourself. the very beginning of the ego dissolution for a lot of people is self-hate. That's when that disillusionment happens, when the ego mask has been lifted. The self-grandeur has fallen into bits and pieces. Underneath is self-hate that you wanted to cover up with all of those masks. But that's the first step. It's courageous to do that. Okay? Do it. Under the self-hate is hurt. Go through all of these levels, layers. Go through it all. You have been abused. Okay. Don't run away with demonizing the abusers. Leave them out of it. I made that mistake with my mother for many years. In my dreams, I demonized her. I made her become a werewolf. That goes very deep into the unconscious. Okay, when it comes out in dreams like this, that finger pointing. So it goes very deep, and we feel righteous about it. It doesn't get us anywhere though. So my mother is a helpless living being. Okay. That's the sky perspective, and that's the truth. That's reality. I can feel compassion for her now. I really do. That poor being, okay, that tried so desperately to not feel any of that pain. Where everything is unconscious. She has compassion. She has a compassion center. But when the ego takes over in that moment, that compassion is covered up over. That compassion doesn't even have a last word. The ego takes over and says really mean things to the person you're supposed to love, your daughter, right? That's what's going on. If you go through that ego dissolution funnel, you can see people from the sky perspective. Your mother, was a monster, maybe, or your father, or whoever it was. And they're victims too, okay? They're suffering beings. Leave them out of it. No, this is your work. You're going through the ego dissolution funnel. If you tell me that, if you can only talk to me as a third person, from a third person perspective, that's okay too. That's a step in the right direction already. Okay? I understand the fear. Someone said to me in a third person perspective, I think I know who that was again, but whoever that was, that's courageous, and that's nice of you to share this with me. He said, I asked the question, why are they hiding behind these troll accounts? Why can't they just, why do they have to always hide? Why can't they come directly as themselves and say to the woman they like, I like you? So he said, so they're behind these troll accounts because they're shy. He is shy. So he's using a troll account. Or whatever names they have for those accounts. Okay, so there are some mean names for the accounts. There's names out of shame again. So much shame and everything. Okay? There's no shame in your physical needs at all whatsoever. There's no shame in your past and having endured abuse. There's no shame in that. It feels like shame. because you've been shamed by those abusers. So it feels like shame. You want to cover it up. But there's no shame in you having been abused. Why should you be ashamed of having been raped or abused? Right? It's sad. It's infinitely sad. Okay? And you need to recognize that. And you need to be good to yourself and not abuse yourself with toxic substances. You need to eat raw food, raw organic, wild grown plant food that's good for your cells, your body. Okay, nurture yourself, and then you're even, they will be even more powerful when you go through that ego dissolution funnel. You walk faster through it. You are more honest. You feel stronger. Okay, and then gradually go through as you get stronger and stronger, as you empower yourself. Okay, face that, face the past. Okay, leave the other people out of it. Don't go to your parents and start blaming them. Then they go into a defense mode. I've been through all of this, trust me. You don't need to reinvent the wheel with this. Leave the other people out of it. Go through that ego dissolution funnel, the inwardness meditation process. Okay, and face the facts of the past. Okay, it may not show itself all of it right away. It hasn't shown itself to me all the way. I had dreams about it. When I was a child, I would draw bathroom scenes all the time. Always these white tiles. My grandfather had those, my parents had those. White tiles in the bathroom, all the way to the ceiling, like a butcher room. My grandfather towering over us children with a vulture eye. Green vulture eye with a slit pupil. That's how I drew it. That's a psychogram. That's an expression of my unconscious. Okay. Lots of those gruesome paintings with cut off hands to express the horror, the horror of abuse, horror of being objectified as a child. There's a coldness behind that. When you're being objectified as a child like that, you're not being seen as the living being that you are. That can later on merge into horrible act outs, sexual act outs also. That can go so far that there are apparently a whole lot of women who like to be beaten by a man, and it feels like love to them. I was shocked. I said to them under their videos, don't you want to get to the nitty-gritty of this? Don't you want to find out why you're doing these act outs to yourself? Why you engage with psychopaths that beat you? Don't you want to find out? But they're so in a frenzy. To them, that's like their mind, their ego is misunderstanding all of this. They think this is a lifestyle. They think it's a choice. No. Your body doesn't choose that. Your cells don't choose that. Okay. You suffer. Okay. And you think that's love. Okay. No, that's from severe childhood abuse. Dig through this in the ego dissolution funnel. You're not helping anyone by acting that out sexually. You're not helping yourself and you're not helping others. You make it worse for the world. Anorexia falls into that kind of area. If you're anorexic, you make the world worse, because particularly if you talk to other people and if you portray yourself as feeling beautiful in that physical state, you lure other people into it. You make other teenage girls do this, imitate you. Teenagers are highly susceptible to what adults do. If you want to make the world better, be the role model that they need for their health. Okay, it's very important information. In order to do this, you have to go through that inwardness meditation process, this ego dissolution funnel. You will come out the other end with knowledge, with wisdom. Knowledge and putting knowledge into the right order, that's wisdom. Okay. Helping other people, helping the world. Okay. That's what we should be doing, you know. That's the mission of existence, is to heal ourselves and help others heal, making the world better, okay? So you guys take care.